All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to get into something really important, the hidden math that makes it so incredibly expensive to be poor. It's this suffocating equation that traps millions of people.
So let's just dive right in with a scenario that might feel a little too real for some of us. Picture this. You're driving along, and then boom, that dreaded check engine light flicks on, and your heart just sinks, right? You know, in the back of your head, that fixing it right now is probably a manageable, a $300 job. But here's the kicker. You check your bank account, and you've only got $42 to get you to payday. So what do? You do what so many have to do. You just ignore it and hope for the best.
Fast forward a couple of months. That weird little rattling noise you've been trying to ignore, well, it's just turned into a total breakdown on the side of the highway. That small initial problem, it's now completely shredded your car's transmission. And the bill? Oh, it's not $300 anymore. We're talking a staggering $2,000 now.
And believe me, it doesn't stop there. Now you got to add in, $200 for the tow truck and another $300 in wages you lost because you couldn't get to work. So that little $300 problem is just spiraled into a $2,500 catastrophe. And why? All because that first simple fix was just out of reach.
Look, this isn't just some string of bad luck. This is a real mathematical trap. And there's actually a perfect way to explain it. It's a concept called the boots theory.
Yeah, this idea actually comes from a novel, believe it or not, but it explains the wealth gap better than a lot of economists can. The whole thing argues that when you're forced to buy cheap stuff that breaks or wears out all the time, it ends up being way more expensive in the long run.
So here's how it breaks down. You've got a rich guy, right? He buys a really good pair of boots for $50, and they last him for 10 years. Solid. Then you have a poor guy who can only scrape together enough for the $10 boots, and they completely fall apart after one season. So over that same 10 years, the poor man has to buy new boots every single year. He ends up spending $100. That's double the cost. And you know what? He still has wet feet half the time.
Okay, so this isn't just some abstract theory from a book, right? You can see this thing playing out all around us. I mean, in our everyday lives, from the groceries we buy all the way to how we bank.
Let's talk about toilet paper, of all things. Seriously, if you've got the cash on hand to go to a warehouse store and buy in bulk, you might pay, say, 50 cents a roll. But if you can only afford a small 4-pack from the corner store to get you through the week, you're paying $1.50 a roll. That right there, that's the poverty premium. You're literally paying 3 times as much for the exact same product.
But this premium, it gets a lot more frustrating. And honestly, it gets a lot darker when you start looking at the financial systems themselves. They're not just neutral observers in all this. They're actively designed to penalize you for stumbling. Just think about this for a second. Let's say a $25 charge hits your account, but you've only got $20 in there, so you're overdrawn by $5. What does the bank do? They smack you with a $35 overdraft fee. You basically just took out a $5 loan for one day that cost you $35. Do the math on that. That is an insane 700% interest rate.
And all of this pressure, all this financial stress, it has a measurable psychological cost. There's this concept called the scarcity mindset, and what studies have found is pretty incredible. The constant stress of not knowing how you're going to pay the bills, it actually reduces your cognitive bandwidth. It literally makes it harder to think clearly and make good long-term decisions.
And this trap, it's everywhere you look. You end up paying more in rent every month than a mortgage would cost, all because you can't save up enough for a down payment. You pay these sky-high predatory interest rates on a used car because your credit isn't great. You even pay with your most valuable asset, your time. Losing hours at a laundromat or spending extra time and money just to get to an affordable grocery store.
Okay, so if the math feels totally rigged, how in the world do you fight back? And look, this isn't about blame. Not at all. This is about strategy. You have to find a way to break that equation.
You know, a lot of standard financial advice just completely misses the point for people who are in this situation. People will tell you to invest in stocks for an 8% return. But you know what the real best investment is? It's paying off that credit card that's charging you 20% interest. That is a guaranteed 20% return on your money. You're not just getting ahead, you're stopping the bleeding.
So the first, and I mean the absolute most critical step, is to build a small cash buffer. That first $1,000, think of it less like savings and more like a weapon. It's the weapon you're going to use to dismantle this whole poverty premium.
Because once you have that buffer, a flat tire is just an annoyance, right? It's not a full-blown crisis that sends you running to a payday lender. It gives you options. It lets you make smarter choices, like raising your insurance deductible to lower your monthly bill. Or, yeah, buying the toilet paper in bulk to save money. You completely flip the script from playing constant defense to playing strategic offense.
Now, building that buffer, it requires a pretty fundamental shift in how you look at your money and your purchases. It's not just about spending, it's about solving problems for good.
See, the trap is focusing on that low monthly payment. That is exactly what predatory lenders want you to look at. The escape route? You have to shift your focus to the total cost of ownership, the lifetime cost. So you have to ask yourself, am I buying the cheap boots again, or am I finally investing in the pair that's actually gonna last?
So here's a really clear, actionable strategy. Step 1, audit. Go through your life and find all those vampire costs. You know, the overdraft fees, the late fees, the insane interest rates. Step 2, identify. Pinpoint the single biggest financial leak. Step 3, attack. You cut everything else, ruthlessly, to scrape together cash. And finally, step 4, solve. You use that pile of cash to plug that leak permanently.
And here's the real takeaway from all of this. The whole system of fees and premiums, it relies on you not understanding the math. It works because it's confusing. But the second you do understand it, you stop playing their game. You start playing yours. So I want to leave you with this question. What is the one cheap boot in your life? What's that one thing that's costing you the most in the long run? Because identifying that one single recurring cost, well, that's the first strategic strike you can make in winning your own financial war.